Hi friends, it's Lisa Hetrick, illustrator for Gina K Designs, and I'm so grateful you could join me today. I have a really fun card project to share with you today with a mini tutorial on creating floral sprays for your card fronts. This tutorial is a request from many of you in the Gina K Designs Facebook group, and I wanted to just kind of take a little bit of a deeper dive into how I create floral sprays for my card fronts. So this is a quick look at the supplies that I'm going to be using to create the sunflower card. So I've got my inks, I've got my tidy towel here, I've got craft ink, I have sweet corn, I have wild dandelion. So for the colors, you just need a light yellow and a dark yellow. I've got two different shades of green as well. So I have jelly bean green and fresh asparagus. These are all from Gina K Designs. I have my tidy towel and my blocks. I've got some sequins and embellishments. This is the Emerald City sequins from Gina K Designs. I have my Connect glue, a jewel pickup to help me put the sequins on. I've got two dies from the Master Layouts die. I'm going to be using this really cute, I love this window die to create a little bit of extra texture and dimension for the card project. I've got some wild dandelion cardstock cut to an A2 size, and I also have some Gina K Designs layering white cardstock. And again, all of the links will be down below in the description for all the products that I'm using in this video. I'm using my Bloom and Grow stamp set and the accompanying die set for this tutorial. Okay, so let's get started first by talking about floral sprays, and I'm going to show you some inspiration. This is the card that we're going to be making, but I'm going to walk through some other cards that I have created with multiple stamp sets in my Gina K Designs collection to just kind of show you this technique. So here is one of the latest cards that I've made, and this is super fun. I'm going to walk through this technique a little bit with you, but you can see that the floral sprays adds a lot of texture and dimension without a lot of height. So here's another one of the cards that I've created. So I'm just going to walk through a few of these and show you some combinations of floral sprays that I've done with stamps. So you all know that I believe that stamps should be the star of the show, so I like to use my stamp sets to the max. And creating these floral sprays for your card fronts really can help you do that. And creating these floral sprays, your cards come together really quickly. They look like they have a ton of things popping off the card, but they're really just beautiful floral sprays where we're layering inks and stamps and die cuts together. So I tend to do this technique quite a bit with every release that I have with Gina K because I really love doing it. So today's tutorial is going to focus on kind of showing you my quick and easy way to create that layering and to create these floral sprays. I am loving this pansy. I love this set. This is Wildflowers and Weeds. This is one of my favorite and wonky kind of floral sprays. It's a little bit all over the place, and this one is super fun too. I just love sharing those with you. So let's break it down a little bit. Here is a card that I've created with Always Delightful. It has a couple die cuts on it and one layering die cut, but over here on the right, you can see how I've layered my stamps and my stamp inks to create this floral spray look. So how I approach this every time that I'm doing it is that I have the largest flower image, and in this case, it's from the Always Delightful. It's that big brush floral that's right there, and I put it in the center of the card, and I use that as my anchor point for the design. And then I start to layer elements, the leafery and some of the die cuts. I start to layer those elements around that anchoring floral. And then I'll take another floral die cut, or I'll just stamp another floral over top at the end to just kind of create that extra level of texture and dimension. So you can see that right here in the center is that grounding floral that's going to be our anchor point for stamping all of the other elements around it. So that when I put that die cut on top, you can see that all of the leafery and the greenery look like it's exploding out underneath that floral, and it gives us that floral spray look that I'm trying to achieve. So I'm layering all of these different colors together, and I'm also working in threes. Now, if you've watched my pattern tutorials, and I'll make sure they're linked up as well, I'm always thinking about stamping my leaves and greenery, my leafery, out in threes around that main floral anchored image. And that gives me a good look and feel for the design, and it just kind of brings it all together and gives it cohesion. So that's just the basics on how I create the floral sprays, and it's super simple, and the stamps are the star of the show. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get started with the card project for today, and I'm going to show you how we're going to create floral sprays with the die cut images and the stamps. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I've got this window from the master layout set, and I'm going to put it down on the Gina K Designs cardstock here. And I'm going to take both of these dies and run them through my die cutter to create that window, but also give me that foundational piece of cardstock for my card base. So I'm going to go ahead and run that through my die cutter. And now I have my layering window piece, and this is going to act as the extra bit of texture and dimension for the card because we're going to be working with die cuts. So it's just going to lay right on top of the Wild Dandelion cardstock, and we're going to layer all of the floral spray elements on top of it. Okay, so now I'm going to work with the Bloom and Grow stamp set, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp out all of the elements. And I'm going to walk you through how I'm going to do the big honkin' sunflower. So I've got the large sunflower, and this is the silhouette. So this is going to give me a solid image. I'm going to use sweet corn here. So this sunflower is going to be what I call like a late sunflower, where it's a little bit orangey, a little bit yellow. I'm going to ink it up here with some of that sweet corn and stamp it down on some of the Gina K Designs cardstock. And I've got this really pretty warm yellow. Now I'm going to go over top of it and add a little bit of extra texture with some Wild Dandelion. So I've grabbed the center stamp for the floral, and this is just a little bit of extra little stippling dots that can add a little extra texture and dimension to the center of the flower. I'm stamping that in Wild Dandelion. I'm also going to ink it up and stamp it around onto the petals and giving the petals a little bit of extra texture in a contrasting color. So we've got Wild Dandelion here, and I'm just kind of dabbing it around and adding. It looks a little bit like a hot mess. So you might feel a little concerned about doing this part of the technique, but I promise you it's going to be super cool because we're going to go ahead and do the two-step stamping technique. I'm going over top of my stamped image now with the line art version of the stamp. Now, here's my tip and trick for lining up. Find the accentuating piece on the stamp. So in my case, these two little petals that look like claws always stick out to me. So it helps me to identify where to find it on the stamp, to line up that stamp to do the two-step stamping. So I look for that petal or that piece that's really going to stick out to me, and then I'm able to line up my stamped images really well. Now you could use your MISTI as well. I'm just going freehand with this today. I'm inking up the line art in the craft ink because I want a brown tone. Usually I go with a black because I want that pop. But this time I'm going for something a little bit warmer, and I was able to line that up really well by looking for those two petals that look like little claws at the top. So take a look at the texture and dimension that we've got here by adding that little stipple stamp that's meant for the center of the floral into the design here. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp out all of my leafery. And I'm going to go with a combination of fresh asparagus and the jelly bean green. And I'm alternating. So I want a little bit of contrast in our final design here between my greens and my yellows and the warm colors and the cool colors. So I'm just alternating my leafery between fresh asparagus and the jelly bean green, two of my favorite greens. And the branches, I'm going to just ink both of them up in the craft so that we have some complementary look between the browns, between the branches and the browns that are in the sunflower line art part. So I'm going to go ahead and get my die cuts and just line all of them up. And I do the same kind of technique for the die cuts. I'm looking for that little claw that is in the die cut. And I will often just put a little piece of tape there so I can identify where that little claw is going to be. And then I'll just leave it there. So when I do this again, I'll be able to find it really quickly. I'm lining up all of my die cuts and I'm going to go ahead and run them through my Spellbinders die cutter and just run them through and get all of my juicy, juicy die cuts. I love it, love it, love it. Okay. So I'm just going to put these die cuts out here so we can take a quick peek at them. So I've got 2 branches, some leafery. I've got all of these pieces. Now, this floral spray is made up of a combination of stamping, die cutting, and layering, where the floral sprays that I've showed you in the beginning with the Always Delightful stamp set was a combination of 1 die cuts and layering our stamps together and layering colors. So there's 2 ways that you can do this technique. I just wanted to add a little bit of extra texture and dimension for this card project. So I focused on using the die cut pieces. Okay, so now I'm going to start with assembly and assembling our floral spray. Now I've added a little bit of foam tape to the back of this die cut, the window die cut, and I'm going to concentrate putting that sunflower in that lower third because I'm going to build the spray up and out around that sunflower. So I'm really digging this because it's still focused on using the stamps, doesn't add a lot of height to the card, but I have the ability to do some layering with these die cuts up underneath the elements. Now, you could do some stamping up underneath and behind the window if you wanted to, but I was going for a little bit of an alternate way of doing this floral spray here. So I'm just going to go around and put a little bit of glue on all of my die cuts and just kind of position them. And I'm also using the die cuts to kind of interlock into the petals. And you'll see me just tuck them under and just kind of interlock them with the die edges and just kind of make a little bit of magic happen. So right here, you see me interlock that leaf, that leafery, right between those 2 claws, my 2 favorite claws I keep talking about in the blooms. So I'm just kind of playing around here where I want these branches. I love that the die cut elements are kind of going up and out and breaking the lines or the look of where the window die cut is. They're kind of extending out a little bit. I'm playing with this leaf a little bit because I thought maybe I should move it around, but ultimately I believe that she needs to go back right next to her friend, the larger leaf, and she looks really good there. But I love that the die cuts just kind of extend out over the window, so you get a lot of extra texture and dimension and a lot of movement with this floral spray. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and add a few, 3 actually, Emerald City sequins embellishments. And I'm just always looking for ways to add 3 embellishments around some of the focal points so that it gives the eye some room to move around the card. Because ultimately I'm creating these floral sprays. We want to create this kind of circular motion and this movement and this whimsy. So the little embellishments just kind of help draw the eye around to the different parts of the card. And that's what I like to use embellishments for. I don't use a lot, as you all know, and I tend to use them in threes, but I use sequins embellishments to add a little extra texture without a lot of height. I'm really loving the way this is moving left and right, and we've got this beautiful floral spray. Take a quick look at the final card. You can see all of the elements just kind of layered together. This card has a lot of extra texture and dimension, and the stamps are still the star of the show. Don't forget to pick up the free Bloom and Grow card idea sheet. The download link is in the description. I have card idea sheets for mostly every single stamp set in my Gina K Designs collection. You can always grab them on my website for free at indigojadeart.com/craftyourjoy. And again, the link is down below in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Please consider sharing the joy by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. And I'm sharing more card and watercolor tutorial videos for your inspiration right here. So come on in and take a peek at my tutorials. I have a lot to share, and I'll see you next time.